So Steve Wilfong does what I do, which is to put names into the 247 Sports calculator and see what comes out. And he has plotted a course in which Oklahoma can finish with a number one recruiting class. Now, the Sooners currently sit at number 14 in the 247 Sports composite with 13 commitments in the boat. Among them, five-star quarterback Caleb Williams, four stars Ethan Downs, Mario Williams, and on Cody Jackson, so forth. But they're going to need some firepower to catch up to the likes of Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU. Ohio State is far and away the number one class in the 247 Sports composite with 19 commitments, 305 plus points. And yet, if things broke all the way to Oklahoma, not just a little bit, but all the way to Oklahoma, they could probably finish just ahead of them. So, lately, Oklahoma has been really high and in on JT Tuimoloau and Emeka Egbuka, two five-star players, two top 10 recruits. Tuimoloau is the number 2 player in the 247 Sports composite, and Egbuka is the number 1 wide receiver in the 247 Sports composite. Then add to that, Oklahoma is in on five-star tailback Camar Wheaton out of Lakeview Centennial, who is also recruiting, or is being recruited alongside by Alabama, LSU, and Texas. Donovan Edwards, who's probably a Michigan lead, is also in the mix there. Though Oklahoma wants to take one tailback, they'll settle for the number 3 running back in the country in Donovan Edwards. And then when you take a look at crystal balls and how they're trending, defensive lineman Kelvin Gilliam, receiver Jalil Farouk, Bryce Foster, offensive lineman Marcus Burris, defensive lineman, and even David Abiari, all are trending toward Oklahoma. Though Abiari is committed to Notre Dame, could be a flip in the future. And then it gets real interesting, because then we're talking about Tristan Lay and Savion Byrd. Tristan Lay is a 5-star offensive tackle, and Savion Byrd is really an SMU lean, which is still wild to think about. And yet, here we are, thinking about it. 4-star outside linebacker Jeremiah Williams is also there. Prince Colley and 4-star safeties Terry and Arnold and Jordan Gilbert are also there. And if you put Egbuka, Tuimoloau, Camar Wheaton, Gilliam, Burris, Foster, Arbiara, and Farouk, so we're talking about, quite literally 8 names into this class, you come out with a score of 298.79, which would make you the number 2 class in the 247 Sports composite, just to demonstrate even further how far ahead Ohio State is, because you'd have 21 commitments and you still be 7 points behind them. Good night. But if you add Tristan Lay and Byrd to that mix, you get the 311.30, which would be by far the highest score that Oklahoma has ever achieved in the 247 Sports ranking. But that's if Oklahoma was only recruiting against itself, and it is not. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about, can Oklahoma recruit with these, national champions? Alabama, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, all teams that have won national championships in the last decade. And then add to that just how good Nick Saban has been, especially over the summer. Adding the Brockemeyer twins, Tommy and James, adding Damon Payne, adding Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a big deal if they are able to do that. Monkel Goodwin would also be a big deal if they were able to do that. They're in on JaQuincy McKinstry and Amarius Mims, though Amarius Mims feels like he's going to commit to Georgia when the time comes, October 14th. We'll see how that goes. And then we'll see how it turns out for defensive tackle Shamar Turner and athlete linebacker Xavier Sori, along with junior college cornerback Kyrie Jackson, who feels like an Alabama lean as well. And then there's still moves to be made by LSU, who's sitting at number 6. Nathaniel Wiggins is trending that way. Corey Foreman is actually giving them a hard look with his friend Mason Smith, who is from the state of Louisiana. They're also in on McKinstry. And then there's Sage Ryan, a top 4-star safety, who is predicted to be headed that way as well. And then you look at the field, right? You can't count out Georgia, who probably ends up with the Smile Munden. And then there's Nolan Rucci going to Clemson. I mean, there's so many names still out there that can influence these rankings that it feels like you got to be inside the top 10 as it is to really make a go of it about getting a number one class. But it is, it's a dream class at this point. And there's no shame in that. But the closer we get to early signing period, which is still on, by the way, I don't know how much longer it's going to be on, but still on, the less likely it feels like Oklahoma can actually pull this thing out. And that's been my criticism. You cannot expect to win national championships unless you are inside that top 4, top 5 recruiting class year in, year out. Because when it comes down to college football playoff semifinals, you see a tremendous separation of talent. While Oklahoma has the firepower offensively, they routinely lack the firepower defensively. And when I look at top defensive tackles and top cornerbacks and top safeties and top linebackers, I look at Oklahoma and I say, where's your 5-star? You got to go back to Buki. Last time Oklahoma landed a 5-star defensive player. And there are many folks that don't think he's any good. Think that he was over-evaluated. So you want to take him away. Okay. Next one is Caleb Kelly. Yeah. How does that one feel? Doesn't feel like you got your 5-star, did it? Because it feels like that dude should have been gone 2 years ago. But injuries happen. And he got outplayed for a will linebacker spot by a 3-star linebacker in Curtis Bolton. Good for Bolton, bad for Oklahoma. And then you got to keep going all the way back, right, to get to outstanding 5-star talent that had joined Oklahoma. And then we talk about defensive linemen who were 5 stars. You got to go back to perhaps Gerald McCoy, and DeMarcus Granger. It's not a good look, man. It's just not a good look. You need Jimmies that can beat their Joes. And the way to do that is to make sure that you have the best possible players coming to your university as possible. And while coaches will tell me routinely, RJ, I don't care about stars. Oh, yeah? Everybody else seems to. Ohio State seems to care about stars. Alabama seems to care about stars. Georgia seems to care about stars. Clemson seems to care about stars. But y'all gonna win without stars. Y'all gonna win with a bunch of dudes that aren't highly recruited, aren't evaluated as the best in the country year in and year out. All right, how's that working out for you? Because it looked like the dudes that got stars go win national championships. Dudes without stars get embarrassed. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I doubt it.